Hello, good evening. We've got about 4 minutes to go, so if you could find a seat, we'll get started here. And all of their preparedness efforts. There's going to be two parts to tonight's presentation. There'll be some opening remarks from Mayor LaFrance and Chief Schrage, and then we've got several presentations to get through. Guessing that'll take around an hour, and then we'll take a short break. We'll reconfigure the stage, and we're going to bring up several panel members to answer any questions from the public. A couple of notes. We are live on YouTube right now. It is streaming live, so we'll be monitoring that. Also with me tonight is Lisa Shield. She also works for Alaska Venture Fund and will be helping moderate the online questions and comments. A couple other notes. If you could please silence your cell phones or other mobile devices, that'd be less disruptive. Thank you. And then we will have, as I said, part two. There will be questions that we will answer, and the panel will answer those. So if you could hold any questions or comments till the second part, that'd be much appreciated. All right, a few trickling in there. Excellent. We'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start off with Mayor LaFrance with opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. As you know, we are here to address one of the most critical issues facing our community, the growing danger of wildland fire. This town hall is the culmination of the dedication and hard work done by the Anchorage Fire Department and its wildfire division to best prepare the municipality against the threat of wildfire. As many of you know, the wilderness surrounding us presents a significant fire risk, and 80% of Anchorage itself is considered urban wildland. Our beautiful green spaces, while cherished, also mean that the risk of fire is ever present, even within our urban core. After a low snow winter and early spring, we are facing a heightened fire danger this summer. And so we must take proactive steps to protect our lives, to protect our property, and to protect our precious natural environment. That's why we've introduced an ordinance aimed at providing our first responders with the necessary tools to deter dangerous fires before they start. It's about common sense, about ensuring that there are clear and swift consequences for actions that put our entire community at risk. We've also worked with the Assembly to fund a community education initiative encouraging home and property owners to fire-wise their properties. And we're collaborating with the state and federal governments to bring crucial fuel mitigation efforts in the areas of Anchorage most at risk. Tonight, we are here to foster a culture of responsibility and prevention. We want to educate all residents about the very real dangers of urban wildfires and provide an opportunity for you to ask questions directly to our fire department experts. This town hall is about open dialogue, about understanding the risks, and about working together to ensure a safer community for all of us. I am thankful to every community member in attendance here and virtually, as well as those who take the time to view the recording later. An informed public is a prepared public. We are here to listen and to answer your questions. Thank you for your commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. I want to thank the Anchorage Fire Department for hosting this town hall and for all that they do to keep our community safe. Thank you also to APD for all that you do for keeping us safe. I want to thank the Division of Forestry Fire Protection. Thank you for the funding and the work on the East-West Connector to make that project happen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Anchorage Fire Department Chief, Doug Schrage. Chief, let's get the town hall started.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for being here and for supporting us and for all the support that you have provided to us. Welcome, and thank you all for being here, just not only those that are in the audience with us tonight, but also those that are joining us online. My name is Doug Schrage, as you've heard, and it is my honor to serve as your Anchorage Fire Chief. And I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Fire Chief Michelle Weston from the Girdwood Fire Department. I don't see Chief Fisher from the Chugiak Volunteer Fire Department. We work alongside one another to help provide fire protection throughout the municipality. It's my privilege to be here along with all of you tonight so that we can tell you about the good work that we have been accomplishing. And then we want to hear from you. We want your questions, your concerns, and your ideas. And the purpose of our community town hall is to provide a status report on our preparedness and response efforts in both an informed and engaging way. Tonight, you will hear about our interagency preparedness efforts, receive an outlook of the 2025 wildfire season and our operational capabilities. We will describe our fuel treatments and mitigation projects. We will give an update on the renewal of our Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which is a 10-year plan that was last updated in 2008. We've assembled here tonight a panel of key agency stakeholders who will remain available for questions and discussion. These include key stakeholders on the local level, such as those of us from the Anchorage Fire Department, Anchorage Police Department, Office of Emergency Management, Parks and Recreation Department. We have representatives from Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility and from Chugach Electric Association. On the state level, we're joined by the Deputy Director of the Division of Forestry and Fire Prevention, and our federal partners from the National Weather Service, Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service, and Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. We're also joined tonight by several assembly members, and by the time I sat down, I noticed that members Volland, Silvers, Gerker, Johnson, and McCormick have all joined us. And if I missed any, please put your hand up. And Aaron Baldwin Day has joined us as well. The threat of a major wildfire in the municipality is very real, and we've had some close calls in recent years. The intensity and the growth of a fire depends on three factors: fuels, weather, and topography, and we have all three problems here in the municipality. We have an accumulation of dead spruce bark beetle-killed trees. We have flammable black spruce, dry grasses, and fine fuels, and many wind-fallen trees, partly from this winter's windstorm. The dry winter that we just experienced and the lack of snowpack that would otherwise buffer the start of our fire season exacerbates the fire risk. We have many homes in the wildland-urban interface in Anchorage and Chugiak, Girdwood, Peters Creek, Birchwood, Eklutna, Bird Creek, and Indian. These are homes that are in many cases built on sloped and channeled terrain with limited access and limited egress. The fires that we've observed, such as those in Lahaina, Los Angeles, Paradise, California, could conceivably happen here. And we are taking this threat very seriously. We are better prepared today than we have been in many years. The Anchorage Fire Department's Wildfire Mitigation Office closed in 2008, and the fuel breaks that we constructed in the early 2000s have all mostly grown back in. Community evacuation plans and public education efforts have become stale, and our mitigation and preparedness plans are outdated. But with much thanks to Senator Lisa Murkowski, who procured for us initial funding to kickstart our reconstituted wildfire division, we have accomplished more in the last 7 months than we have in the last 17 years. And I'd like to give a special shout out to our division. Thank you. The credit mostly goes to our new division chief of Wildland Fire Management, Chief John Glover, and Stephanie Dufek for she's our wildfire program manager, for their impressive results. So thank you. They have developed a multi-year strategy that includes fuel treatments, evacuation planning, exercises, community preparedness efforts to get us all back where we should be. Given the urgency of this year's fire season, they are prioritizing their efforts in a way to maximize impact in the amount of time we have. And this includes fuels treatments in our parks and constructing fuel breaks to contain and slow fire spread. Even as we are meeting here tonight, state firefighters constructing the Prospect Heights shaded fuel break as a pre-season training exercise are providing a buffer along the Anchorage hillside that will slow the spread of a fire. So with special thanks to Norm McDonald, he is the Deputy Director of the Division of Forestry and Fire Prevention. How about that? Thank you. Despite the significant progress, we are still not as prepared as we would like to be. And to get there will be a whole community effort. Tonight, you will hear about things that you and we can do together to get us there. And this includes firewizing your home and making a ready, set, go plan. I encourage you to visit wildfire.muni.org for information on those programs. But it all starts with your participation and your engagement tonight. So again, thank you for being here. Thanks to the mayor and to members of the assembly for our support. And I hope tonight that you find this to be informative and engaging. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you, Chief Schrage and Mayor LaFrance, for that. Like the chief mentioned, we have several presentations planned for this evening, and we're going to start off with a wildfire seasonal outlook with National Weather Service, Aviva Braun.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm going to talk about our season outlook. My name is Aviva Braun, and I am the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service here in Anchorage. So I want to start with a look at what has occurred before we look at what's going to happen next. So I think everybody remembers that we had an unusual winter season, right? We had really low precipitation amounts. So this is a combination of liquid and snow liquid amounts when they fall to the ground. And the average for that time of year is above 1 inch, and we were around ½ an inch in both November and December. So it was an interesting dry start to the winter. And then we had a very wet January, mostly in the form of precipitation, liquid precipitation. February was quite dry, and that's when we started getting pretty nervous about what the fire season would look like this summer. But as we moved into March, we actually went towards normal. This is the normal here that I keep on referring to here. And then in April, we went and got almost 3 times the amount of normal. So that's where we're sitting now. We've gotten quite a bit of precipitation. And so now we can look at that in our water year. So a water year is defined as October 1st through September 30th. And our water year right now, we're looking pretty good. Those blues, that means that we're above 100. And Anchorage Borough is roughly 111% above normal for this water year. So our snowpack, though, shows something similar. And this is also based on our snow water equivalent as of May 1st. And in the Anchorage borough, we're about 70 to 109% of normal for this time of year. And so let's take a look a little bit closer. So snowpack varies in elevation, right? We know that there's not so much snow where we are here. There's still snow in the mountains. We're basically snow-free below 1,500 feet, and then we have snow above that. And so that's why we are above normal, right about normal, for most of the Front Range in the borough. Along the Turnagain Arm, where we've seen warmer temperatures, stronger winds kind of sublimate and get rid of snow, we're sitting at about 50% of normal. So we still see some of those signs of the dry that we had before, but we've done pretty good. And so this is why when we look at the drought monitor, this is a culmination of all of those things put together. The only area where we're seeing abnormally dry conditions is north of the Connecticut Arm and the Matsu Borough. So now let's advance forward, look at the outlook, and we're going to start by looking at the ENSO, which is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And these gray bars, that's ENSO neutral. So do you see how tall these ENSO neutral bars are relative to El Nino, which is the blue, or excuse me, La Nina, which is the blue, and El Nino, which is the red? So we're in a ENSO neutral period, and most ENSO neutral, ENSO weak seasons are associated with low fire years. Our big fire years are generally associated with El Nino, and this is not an El Nino year. So looking ahead to next week, we're going to look at this in another way in a minute here, but we are looking at below normal temperatures and above normal precipitation. That blue is the temperature, the green is the precipitation. And then as we move into early June, the temperatures are going to even out. They're going to be about normal. And then by the time we look at the 3-month outlook, June, July, August, then we're going to start seeing above normal chances of being warm and above normal chances of being wet. So another way of looking at that is the upper air chart. So I'm going to get a little nerdy on you and show you some model output. And these are seasonal outputs. And I'm going to explain a little bit here. This is 500 millibar heights, which is halfway up through the atmosphere. And when you see these little U's, you see those U's here? That means that it's associated, that's a low. That's a trough in the upper levels. It's a low at the surface. And when you have the upside down U here, that is a ridge. So that's associated with high pressure. So lows are generally associated with rain, unsettled weather. That's what we have had here for the last several days, and that's what we're looking at, looking ahead to next week. And so, that's not what I wanted to show you. Sorry about that. So that blue, those cooler temperatures, or the cooler colors, that's your below normal temperatures. And that's what we're going to be seeing at the end of May as we move into June. And then that unsettled weather is going to continue into June, but we're now going to be, you see the yellows down here, we're going to be transitioning between those cooler temperatures and the warmer temperatures with the ridge out to the east and the low to the west. And then we're going to start moving in July to more heightened highs, and so that means warmer weather. And July looks a lot like August, and I'm neglected to include August, so apologies for that. So all that culminates into this diagram that the National Interagency Fire Center produces every single month, and that's the significant wildland fire potential outlook. And we do not have, we have normal outlook for Alaska. You don't see any areas highlighted in red in either June or July. So normal conditions moving ahead. I think we got a little lucky with our rain last month. So our outlook summary is that we were really nervous about a month ago. Had we had this town hall last month, it would have been a little bit different of a storyline. But we've downgraded it to a typical South Central fire season. We're expecting the rest of the season to be average. I will put that caveat, though, that models are imperfect, and there's a lot of uncertainty in them. So this is what we know now, and we'll have to just know that this could change. And before I hand over, I just want to talk about some of the products that the National Weather Service issues. We issue 2 products when it comes to fire weather. One is called a fire weather watch, and one's called the red flag warning. We only issue these if the fuels are considered receptive, and we know this because we talk to our fire weather partners. We talk to the Alaska Interagency Coordination Center meteorologists based out of Fairbanks. And so when we know that those fuels are receptive and they are prone to extreme fire danger, and then we see either the weather conditions align, so warm temperatures, low relative humidities, stronger sustained winds, we know that that's a trigger for our products. Also, we have a trigger for just a lot of lightning, abundant lightning on dry fuels. So we'll issue the watch if we see things starting to come together. We have the ingredients, but we're still working out the details. And then we'll issue that red flag warning when we have certainty. And that's when you, as the public, can then be like, oh, I need to start preparing for this, maybe be a little bit more careful with the grilling or a campfire, burning wood in my backyard. You can use some of our products as helpful in that manner. So with that, I will turn on over to the next person, or Jeff. Thank you.
All right, good job. Okay. Great. Okay, next we'll hear from the Anchorage Fire Department's Wildfire Division Chief, John Glover, with an update. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's pretty awesome to see this much attendance. I'm reminded that I'm not nearly as tall as Jeff. But anyway, I wanted to go over a couple of things about what we're doing for preparedness across the municipality, within the division, and just holistically working with our interagency partners here. So like was mentioned earlier, there's really 3 folks within our entire division right now, myself, Stephanie, and then we're lucky enough to have just picked up Ethan Ely today. It's his first day, so he's getting christened with a late night and meeting everybody here real time. So we're pretty excited about that. I'm new to the department, but I'm not new to wildland fire. So I've worked since 2002 in wildland fire across the state of Alaska, Canada, and the lower 48. I'm fortunate enough to have worked with a lot of people that are going to be presenting tonight. Norm and I have been working together for the past 24 years, so pretty excited to carry some of those relationships forward and bring them to the municipality and have some interagency engagement across really all facets of what we do together. A few other folks in the room, Jeff and I actually worked together. He was my first boss in wildland fire, if you can imagine that. So it's pretty cool to all be working together as we kind of bring this back to the municipality where we live and play and enjoy our time. One of the things that I've been really focused on is developing our capacity as a department and leveraging our interagency partners, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I do want to recognize Stephanie Dufek. She'll get up here and present here soon, but she's been really just incredibly valuable in everything that we've been doing so far. So she's, like Chief Schrage said, she's our project manager. She's been helping manage our CWPP, our Firewise project, and a whole bunch of other initiatives that we have going on. So big credit to Stephanie. Thank you very much for all of your hard work, and looking forward to your presentation in a bit. But let's give her a round of applause because she rocks. And Ethan's in the corner, and he's just getting read in on all of his duties and responsibilities. We're stoked to have him on board as well. All right, so like Chief Schrage said, we're super fortunate to have funding that Senator Murkowski advocated very hard for. It's about a $4 million funding package that's currently funding the division. It's funding our positions, but it's also funding a lot of the mitigation work that we're doing around the municipality, a lot of our project planning, the CWPP that's taking place right now. and a ton of other stuff. I'm stoked to announce that our woodlots are open. They're open early this year. We have a woodlot in out at the Refuge Center on Highland, and then also our Central Transfer Station woodlot. Because it was so well received last year, we're open 6 days a week now, and it is funded by the division. So it's no cost to you guys anymore, the public, and we're happy to support you and just really appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing to prepare your homes to reduce the risk for our firefighters and help us with response. So thank you to Solid Waste Services, and thank you to you all for utilizing that. Currently, we're funded till about 2027 with the division. We've actively been pursuing additional grants. We are really working hard. We have about $4 million in grant solicitation going on right now, and that is what we're utilizing to fund our projects, our mitigation projects across the municipality. And to be clear, they do stretch from Eklutna and Peters Creek and all the way down into Girdwood and beyond. So we are talking about the whole municipality when we're talking about the projects that we're doing, and we'll get into that in a little bit. All right, as was mentioned, the Anchorage is a pretty unique landscape. The majority of our residents lie within the interface and intermix. We're at about 82.6% of our structures reside in the interface or intermix. So it poses some pretty unique challenges as it relates to wildland fire risk, as well as response, right? So we are fortunate to have pretty highly trained firefighters and great relationships with our interagency partners, but it's really important that we maintain all of those because we have such a unique threat to our municipality. It doesn't matter whether you live over by the airport and you have Connors Bog, which is close by with acres and acres of black spruce, or whether you're up on Anchorage Hillside, which gets a lot of attention because of the slope and the risk there. But really, if anywhere you look across the municipality, we have some challenges associated with wildland fire. Whether it's Eklutna Valley and the limited access and egress, Highland Road, Eagle River Valley, Peters Creek, and the threat with the installation right there near Powder Ridge subdivision, we have a very expansive and challenging urban interface that we're very excited about the partnerships that we're building, but we take it very seriously and recognize the threat that we have. So we talked about the 82%. Norm will speak to this a little bit, so I won't belabor it, but we've had a continuing growth in our wildland fire across the state and nationally. We continue to expect more and more acres to be burned. We are looking at having about 169% increase by 2050. And just historically, we keep having more and more banner years. Norm and I were on a fire last year in Oregon together, and we keep going to all of these fires, and we're saying, man, we have not seen fire behavior like this before within our careers, or we have not seen a fire this late in this area. We understand that, and we're preparing for that type of threat here within the Anchorage municipality. We recognize the risk, we recognize the changes, and we are doing our best to prepare for that and working with our interagency partners for that. So as a department, we've really worked hard to advance our qualifications as it relates to all things wildland fire. As a AFD firefighter, you don't choose the emergency that you respond to, and we recognize that. And while we are not the suppression jurisdiction for wildland fires, we recognize that we have a high potential to be first in and first assigned to that fire. So we have elevated our training within the department. We were refreshed and ready sooner than ever before with our wildland response. Our brush rigs are active. We have a couple of new pieces of equipment coming in. We'll talk to those in a bit, but our training and how we're preparing has really leveled up. We were fortunate enough to have integration with our training between Girdwood and Chugach Fire as we trained our line firefighters. We've brought in Division of Forestry to work with our battalion chiefs and our command. Fortunate enough to have Anchorage Police Department present for that training as well. Just this last week, I spent the entire week, myself and Ephraim, and we presented to the Anchorage Police Department line personnel for evacuation training and coordination. So we're not just focused on ourselves, we're focused on everybody that we're gonna be working with if we have an event within the municipality. It's different, it's a change, but it's one that we're working very hard to take seriously and engage our partners. In some of the departments, we do have volunteers, but not within Anchorage Fire. And we'll grab questions at the end if you don't mind. Sorry. Strength and partnerships. So, like I said, we've done a lot of integrated training, but we recognize that as a municipality, we have our own partners that aren't just fire that we have to integrate with and work with. So, through our preseason preparedness meetings that we've been doing, and we've had a couple of them now, leveraging all of the people that will come to the table and all of the people that will be affected. So Office of Emergency Services, Anchorage Wastewater and Utility, Chugach Electric, Air Quality, all of our neighboring departments, our suppression jurisdiction, basically anybody and everybody, including Anchorage School District, all of the players that would be involved if we have some type of event within the Anchorage municipality. So we've really worked hard to integrate with all of our partners that we would be unifying with, as well as working with to help manage. You know, a lot of people saw the LA fires and they went, wow, man, they ran out of water. What do we do for something like that? We've worked with AWU and JP and their folks since November to make for sure that we're on top of that. We've talked with the administration and traffic and roads, and they've made their water tenders available for us if we have something where we need to have increased water shuttles. We're fortunate enough to have great partners that are taking this threat to the community very, very seriously, and everybody's been working together wholeheartedly. We have almost weekly meetings with these folks at different levels to have engagement and ensure that we're ready to respond if we actually have an actual threat on the hillside or within the municipality. Like I said, State of Alaska Division of Forestry has suppression jurisdiction, and Norm will talk a bit about their capabilities here in just a second. But we have been working with their folks and training with their folks, as well as our mutual aid partners. So if we actually have an incident within the Anchorage municipality, it's very common for us to exercise mutual aid agreements where we would have J-Bear Fire and Emergency Services, Chugach, Volunteer Fire Department, Girdwood Fire and Rescue, all of those players coming on board to help with that type of situation. We've integrated our training with all of those folks. Our firefighters were out helping burn on J-Bear with their prescribed fire operations this spring. We've cross-trained with the departments. We've been presenting down in Girdwood and reading them in on some stuff, and it's just been really, really phenomenal to see how these relationships are growing this early and this fast within the division. So we're really proud of that and really appreciative to our partners. We got a cool picture here. We got a couple of new brush trucks that are going to be coming in the next month. We're very excited to have those up online and increase our capacity and capabilities across the municipality. And we expect delivery, I believe, next month on those trucks. So very, very pleased, very happy. We recognize some of the challenges that we have as a department. We're really good at getting on fires fast if we can access them. When we have challenges accessing them, that's when things get big, right? But our success ratio on fires that are about 10 acres or smaller is incredibly high. When we have issues with access somewhere, then that's when things get a bit more challenging, and we have to really, really rely on our partnerships with Division of Forestry. So that's what we focused a lot of our spring training on, and how do we prepare and how do we deal with an event like that. And that's really where we have focused a lot of our mitigation efforts that I'll speak to in a little bit here as the presentation goes on. But I'm really excited about our preparedness. I'm really appreciative for all of your guys' attendance here, and I'll turn it over to Norm to speak a little bit more. Or I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he'll introduce Norm.
And next we'll hear from Norm McDonald.
All right, thanks, Jeff. All right, morning, everybody. My name is Norm McDonald. I'm the Deputy Director for the Alaska Division of Forestry and Fire Protection. For the previous 12 years, I guess I started this job in 2019. Before that, I was the Fire Management Officer. I worked out in Palmer, and I oversaw the Mat-Su and Anchorage areas for protection. 2015, I absorbed Southwest Alaska, so an additional 88 million acres. And before that, as a young kid, I grew up on the Anchorage hillside, so I was, thanks, Jeff. So I was from off of DeArmond Road, so I grew up here. I had fire management responsibilities for the area, and then now as the program deputy director, it's still very near and dear to me. So I've worked with Chief Schrage, I think going back to the early 2000s when he was an operations chief, and I was one of the firefighters that would show up in Anchorage to fires. And I've been a part of the fuels program back in the 90s and early 2000s, and really happy to be part of this program now. And I mean, what an awesome opportunity to have you folks here, talk a little bit about what we do and how we work together, and talk a little bit about the program that Anchorage is building for their wildland fire response. I think, the fire is a complex problem. It's complex in Alaska. Chief Schrage mentioned the Lahaina fires, the LA fires from this winter. I think a lot of you watch the news in the summers and see the fires in the West Coast. I watched in shock this year as New Jersey was burning across freeways. We went down to Canada in 2018 and helped with the worst fire season that Canada had in their history. You look across the world and there's fires in Australia and Europe in conditions like we've never seen before. So it is a complex problem. It's very real. It's changing and it's not getting better. So for the state, the way we organize to meet those challenges is try to keep it very simple. We've invested our time and money into our 4 foundational pillars, and that part of that's the preparedness piece. That's the training is a big part of that, both with our firefighters and then the cooperators we work with, and then some of the fire planning we do. And we talk about CWPPs, or the Community Wildfire Protection Plans. I know Anchorage is in the middle of building theirs right now. We do evacuation planning with the state troopers and DOT and some of the other agencies we work with. But that preparedness piece and what we do here today is part of that. We invest in our prevention program, and that's the intent there is reducing human-caused fires. And we do that through public education and outreach and with our communities. And a big part of that is our enforcement piece. So we start with kids when they're a young age in the prevention programs in schools, to adult learning as we get opportunities around the state and the state fairs and home shows, outdoor shows. And then if that doesn't work and the warnings don't work, we do have an enforcement program where we can cite people for illegal or unsafe burning. The fuels mitigation program is a big part of our division. When we're not on fires, our firefighters do fuels work. And we'll talk a little bit about one of the projects we have going on in Anchorage right now, but that's a statewide effort. That's from Fairbanks all the way down to Homer and every community in between. We've got fuels projects besides Anchorage right now going on in Fairbanks, Delta, Tok. We've got stuff going on in Copper River and the Kenai Peninsula. So when we're not busy with fires, and I think with our weather, we were talking about a slow season, we are still full tilt on the fuels piece of it. And that's building those resilient communities. And part of that is fuels breaks, part of that's prescribed fire, and part of that is just helping the homeowners take that defensible space around their homes. And then of course the last piece is the suppression, and that's effective initial attack. And kind of look at that just by having the right resources, right place, right time. And we have to move our resources around the state where there's the highest risk and the highest likelihood of a fire, but that's that suppression component to what we do. So that's a little bit how we organized our division. We've got about 350 employees total. About 220 of those are fire responders. Most of those are seasonal. We are scattered, we have offices around the state. The positions outlined in red are our fire or operations level positions. They do the suppression piece and then work on fuels when they're not on fires. And then in the blue are those support positions. And if you're familiar with the military, if you came up through that, for every frontline soldier, there's about 4 people supporting that effort behind the line. And we've got the same thing here. For every hotshot crew we send out, there's people that work on getting them food, hose, pumps, chainsaws, fuel, vehicle maintenance. It takes a huge support staff to maintain those operational firefighters, and I like to compare it to that military look. It takes a lot of logistics to support wildland fires. So we have a lot of logistics and the planning, the preparedness, and the fuels piece to support that mission. And I think this is just kind of an interesting, this is part I like really talking about with folks who are not familiar with it. But Alaska obviously is a huge state, the biggest in the nation. So we have a very unique response plan, and how we do that is we've got 3 primary wildland fire response agencies. The north part of the state is Alaska Fire Service. They're under the BLM. So they protect all DOI lands. That's their primary mission. But through agreement, They protect state lands, state, private, and municipal. And that's through the master agreement we have with the BLM. They provide that service for us in that blue colored area. That's all state of Alaska protection, and that's a very unique model where we protect by statute state, private, and municipal lands, but also through agreement DOI and native lands. So those Angsta, Siri, and some of those large landowners is part of our responsibility. That's the only place like that in the country where we have that large of an agreement where we protect federal lands. And I think you look at some of the talk that's happening national, that's the model that people are looking at is, single agencies protecting multiple different jurisdictions. And I think Alaska's been doing that since the 80s, and it's been a tried and true model, and it's something that other people are looking at now for the lower 48 as well. And if you look at the map on the right, that's the ownership, so the jurisdictional. So if you imagine every one of those jurisdictional agencies trying to protect their own piece of real estate over an area the size of the state of Alaska, that would be a huge cost burden. I think operationally it's not feasible. So the model we have works really well for Alaska. For the state, we have 7 geographic offices located in Kenai. McGrath covers the Southwest, Palmer for Matsu and Anchorage, Copper River, Tok, Delta, and Fairbanks. So each of those areas has a staff of firefighters, hand crews, and then a helicopter. And that's how we diversify. We move those resources around, but they're there as that strategic location to be able to respond quickly to wildland fires. And then the other part, I think, with Alaska is we cannot put out every fire, nor would we want to put out every fire. So we have, again, another very unique fire management plan that all of the agencies in Alaska have agreed on. And we categorize our response levels to where we're going to send our resources and how through 4 levels of response. Critical is the highest values at risk. That's our communities, so where we have homes and people's livelihoods. That's critical response. That's just all hands on deck. Number 1 priority is life safety. So those are the areas of immediate response to protect life safety, and property. Full protection is that next step down. It's still a very high priority. Often it's classified with, you think of recreational cabins, the lodges, natural resource values, the pipeline corridor, mines. They're still high value. They don't have the life component, so it still gets a full response. But if we have 1 hotshot crew left, they're going to the critical fire over a full or modified or limited. And I'll bump down to the bottom. The lowest priority is the limited response, and those are areas where we often want fire to play its natural role in the landscape. We have the ability to change that on the fly, so if that fire in limited starts near something we want to protect, we can do a non-standard response and send firefighters to that to suppress it. We might identify a value that we want to protect, and we'll just do point protection, but really those are fires that we monitor and watch them play their natural role in the landscape. And we have a lot of our state, you can see is shaded, is not limited protection. And the 4th component is modified, and that's a combination of full and limited. It's full protection up until about middle of July 10th usually. And then after July 10th, we'll let those fires play its natural role. And that just gives us a balance of fires that may threaten values. We want to get on early in the season before they have a chance to get large. And then later in the season, we'll let that fire play its natural role. So again, very unique. Alaska is the only state in the nation that has fires that they don't suppress automatically. But there's a lot of states that don't have the geographic scope that we do with the large tracts of land, and we don't have the resources, funding, or need to put some of those fires out. I just want to focus a little bit on our challenges here. What you've heard about. John had a really good slide about some of the changes that they're seeing, but this is just this is real life science that's impacting Alaska and globally as well. But that graphic on the right shows the warming over the last 20 years. You can see back into about mid-1970s, and there's that slow trend of warmer conditions. The maps highlight where those are. The Arctic is the fastest changing, and I think we've all heard that. South Central is actually the slowest, but all of Alaska is seeing those longer, drier conditions and warming conditions, and that plays its role. As a kid who grew up in Alaska, I can tell you firsthand of the snow and the cold winters we had as a 10-year-old growing up off the Armin Road compared to what we're seeing now, and I think a lot of you, if you're lifetime Alaskans, have witnessed that firsthand as well. And what that translates to is this is a great graphic to highlight the changes we've seen. The graphic on the right is the burned area between on the left is a burned area between 1984 and 2003, and that's kind of our banana belt of fire. That's that Yukon-Kuskokwim corridor just south of the Brooks Range. That's our lightning belt, and that's where historically a lot of our fires were. And then you can look at the 2004 to 23 map and just the visual on how many more fires, the larger fires, more acreage, large fire scars down in South Central, which were not common 25 years ago, we're seeing more and more frequently. And for those of you who live down here, I'm sure you remember Miller's Reach Fire in '96. We had the McKinley Fire 2019, Sockeye Fire in '15, and then the Swan and a bunch of fires down in Kenai Peninsula. And if you look in the last 25 years, that's a change from what we've seen historically. So these are real life conditions, real life changes. They take more resources, more people. They're starting earlier. Our seasons are going later. So these are just some of the challenges that we're seeing in our fire world for the protection agencies. And on top of the conditions that are changing, and John had a great slide about this for Anchorage as well, we're just seeing more and more people living in that wildland-urban interface. People want to live off the road or out of the communities. They want to have their slice of the Alaska, which we all understand. But you look at the growing population, and we have seen this, about almost 75% of our housing units are in the WUI, the wildland-urban interface. Most of the new construction, 85, just under 90% now, is being built in the wildland-urban interface, so that's not changing. And of course, nationally, it just makes sense that we're the 5th highest state with the WUI problem. So we've got the climate, we've got the changing conditions, and we've got people who want to live in the woods, right? So that's our challenge. That's what we have to be prepared for. I think Anchorage is doing their fire program at a great time to be ready for these changing conditions and how we're going to have to adapt to that. And we often get asked about how we do our business, right? We only have, I said, about 220 firefighters in our division. Alaska Fire Service has about maybe 150, 200, about the same. That's not enough people to put out every fire in Alaska. And when we get a busy season, and we call that our Preparedness Level 3, where we're getting multiple fires, lightning, we have the human problem, or human-caused fires, we import resources. And for the state, we've got a couple ways we do that. The newest model we have is state to state and the compacts. We have a Northwest Compact. That map highlights, it's Alaska and the 4 Canadian provinces and the 4 western states. We just included Hawaii last year, and we're looking at bringing California into that compact next year. So we are, what that compact allows us to do is share our resources. When we have a critical need of aircraft or crews or people or even engines, we can call on our partners to the south, whether it's Canadian or US states, and they can send them to us, and then we're in return, when they have a need, we send our resources to go support their mission. Right now, we have one of our air tankers in Saskatchewan. It's on a day-to-day lease program where it's helping out those guys protect some of their communities. I look at years of 2019 and 22, and we had 12 Canadian aircraft in Alaska, in Palmer and Fairbanks, to protect Alaskan values. So we work closely with our neighboring partners. Canada's the closest, so we use their aircraft quite often. They use our crews, and we support each other when and where we can. Then we also have a master agreement, and that allows us to use the national program to order resources from all over the country. Those can be federal resources, state resources, and sometimes international. And we import to Alaska. And I think 2019, we imported just under 6,000 firefighters to help us through that season. And for those of you who are from here, you remember the Swan Lake Fire, which started in May. It ended in October. We had people on that fire protecting values all over Alaska from beginning of May, through late fall, which is normally when our fire season is over. We can't do that alone. We need our partnering agencies and partnering states and the Canadian resources. And in return, when they need our help, we help them. So it's an awesome program. Nobody has enough stuff, so we share well. And it's something that we've really built over the last 15 years and works really well for us in Alaska. And then in-state, although the Division of Forestry and Fire Protection has the statute authority for wildland fire, again, we can't do it alone. We work closely with our other state agencies. DOT is a big player in what we do. When we have large fires that call for evacuations, they're often the first on scene. We control the fire, but they own the roads, right, the highways. So they're the only agency that can actually shut down a highway. We can do temporary closures. So we work with DOT for the traffic control and traffic management. They're good for about 24 to 48 hours of support, and they've got day jobs. They're doing bridges and everything else, and along with the state troopers who help us with the traffic control and keeping people out when we have evacuations. And then we can expand that into the National Guard for support. And we use National Guard soldiers for traffic control, for logistics support, for security checkpoints. And a big part of what we use them for is their Black Hawk helicopters. Any given year, they'll have between 2 and 4 helicopters available to us that we can hire up and use, and they help support our fire mission. I think they've worked in Anchorage a couple times over the last few years in some of the Anchorage fires. And we work very closely with the Alaska State EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, on JBEAR. So when we have needs outside of what we have in the state, if it's another state agency, that's our go-to to help us go find those resources and make sure available. And we train with those folks every year. We have agreements in place, so it's a really smooth operation. Actually, the team that John and I respond to has several of their people, so it's a small state when it comes to emergency response, and we have a very good relationship with those agencies. I'm not going to belabor this again, although you saw the fire danger May versus June in Alaska, and I look at the red in the continental United States, and I look at that as Alaska is at a neutral, and what's looking like a normal year, and normal in Alaska is about 1 million acres. And I always tell people it doesn't, it just matters where that 1 million acres is. If it's out in southwest Alaska, out in the backcountry, that's okay. That's moose habitat. We all want moose habitat. But if that's along the road system, that's people's homes and values and investments, we have to protect it. So I see the red on the map there. That's our competition for resources this summer. That's how I look at that. I see Rob and a couple of the other folks who've been doing this business for a long time. And when we need resources in Alaska, and California's on fire, and Arizona's on fire, and New Mexico's on fire, everybody's looking for those engines. Everybody's looking for an air tanker. Everybody needs a hot shot crew. So we have to really make sure, one, we're prepared to protect our own, and two, we have to be able to, when we have that need, is be able to illustrate that need and why it's important and what values we have. So we have a process that we go through to make sure we let the national office in Boise very clearly illustrate our needs and why it's important. And every other state's doing the same thing. So some people look at fire danger, I look at competition when I see these maps. I'm going to hit on this, John. I don't know if you're going to cover it any more in depth, but we talked about the partnership we have with Anchorage and the municipality for a couple of these fuel breaks. This is the first of, I think, 3 that John has planned for this summer. This one is done primarily with our hand crews. It was, I have the opportunity to go to Juneau and represent the state of Alaska, and I look at and Alaskans and be able to kind of illustrate our need for the limited resources that we have. I met with many of the Anchorage legislators while I was down there, and it was loud and clear that there is a want and a need for fuels reduction work. John and I partnered, I think when he first was hired and talking in January and February. John had put this together really quickly, and it's just been an awesome project. We've got 2 of our hand crews out there right now cutting and burning and working on that. You've probably seen the smoke. It's been in the news. We've been really trying to get that on our social media platforms. So when people see smoke, they know it's good smoke and not bad smoke. But our mission, again, is that mitigation, is that resilient landscape. We don't have fire trucks for every driveway. We're never going to have enough firefighters to catch every fire. So if we do get a large fire in Anchorage, anything we can do to be proactive and get like a foot in the door on operational readiness, we do that. And the fuels reduction planning like this and getting some of these fuel breaks in there are a huge step. And from somebody who's fought fire in Alaska for a long time and nationally, we have these around other communities. We've got a large fuel break around in the Kenai Peninsula around Sterling, and we used that in 2013 and 14 for one of the large fires down there. It was the only thing that helped between the firefighters, giving them a place to work from and burn off from, that protected about $2 billion worth of infrastructure. So when we put these in the right place, and then you get fewer resources that are needed to work from them, that's what saves homes, that's what saves our infrastructure and our investments. So right now with the slow season, and we talked a little bit about with weather, we are very lucky. Our May has been well below normal. April and May are usually our driest months, above normal preset, but this gave us a chance to put all 40 of our local crew, our local firefighters and our hotshot crew and our Type 2IA crew on this project. With a little bit of rain over the last week, we've been able to cut and burn those piles so we don't leave them for somebody else to start on fire when we're not there. So it's been an awesome project. If you get an opportunity to come out, we've got people out there that can kind of walk folks through that. John and his staff have given some tours already, but awesome program, and it's really good to be back working in Anchorage on fuels reduction with the Anchorage Fire Department and kind of getting again, ahead of the game when it comes to our preparedness. And that's all I've got. I think we're gonna have Q&A, so I'm gonna, after this, some other time, and I'll be available for questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Norm. Okay, we'll go back to you, John, with some further mitigation updates.
Norm must be hungry. Wants to get the Q&A and go get some food. All right. First of all, big thanks to State of Alaska Division of Forestry for all of the support. They're helping us initiate all of our projects that we're doing within the municipality. So I really appreciate the effort. Chief Schrage and I had a chance to go out and speak with the crews over the weekend and just tell them thanks for the hard work they're doing and walk the site. And it is just downright impressive what they've accomplished so far. So that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about our strategy. So when I took this position, I met with the State of Alaska Division of Forestry, with BLM, with our partners through all of our suppression entities, and really tried to take a good holistic look at what we needed to do to properly prepare the Anchorage municipality. So we leverage a few different factors when we're deciding where to put mitigation lines in: fuel breaks, fire breaks, so on and so forth. We want to prioritize life and property, right? So responder safety, public safety, and then our values that we're tasked with protecting. So when we look at where we're implementing lines, that's where we're taking our first look and how we're assessing that. And then we have some additional challenges with that based on ownership, accessibility, and jurisdiction as well. So some of it is, where do all of those line up first and give us the ability to go in and do right now? And then some of those that we have a little bit more challenging factors with might be a little further out in our process, but we're actively working with all of our jurisdiction partners and our land owners to be able to make this work. And I'll give a shout out to Parks and Rec too, because they own a lot of municipal land and they've been super easy to work with for all of our mitigation efforts that we're initiating in 2025. So this is kind of our strategy that we're going with. And if you take a look at it holistically from basically the 30,000 foot view, what you'll notice is it's where we have large concentrations of fuel, right? And we have a lot of energy potential for that to build up and move, right? It also happens to be where we have problems with access. And a great example is kind of that greater Campbell Track area where Campbell Airstrip Road goes through. We have trails and stuff like that in there, but we don't have big paved roads where we can get large apparatus in there with lots of personnel. So there's a lot of potential in that area where if we get a start, it's going to have time to be able to grow, get some energy going, and then expand. So when we look at areas like that, we look at, okay, where do we put in a mitigation line that's going to do the most bang for the buck? We can put an arbitrary line in the middle of the woods, but I can tell you I've been doing this for 24 years. I put a lot of fuel breaks in the woods, and I've had a lot of fires start on the wrong side of those. And it's really depressing as a firefighter, and it's even more depressing as a homeowner if you're hoping that line would have protected your values. So we recognize that, for example, this east-west connector, I don't know how to make the laser pointer work. There we go. So this one right here, you know, our smoke impact from the fuels removal is obviously getting right in the Prospect Heights community. We recognize that, and we know that's a bit of a challenge, but it's also putting a fuel break that's within 50 foot of our values that we're protecting. And that enables us as responders to be able to get right in there with our apparatus, run a short hose lay, staff, and defend the values that we're tasked with protecting, right? So that's what we're looking to do, really, really put our lines where they can have the most benefit to our public that we're supporting. So we'll just kind of go around the map a little bit. As you guys are aware, this one's taking place right now, this Campbell Airstrip Road project. This feeds about 270 residents in the Stuckagen Heights community. That's their only way in and only way out. And for us as responders, that's our only way in to actually do any kind of defense if there's a wildland threat pushing against that community. So that is a huge priority for us, and I just met with the contractor today, and they will be starting on that project tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a 3-mile long fuels treatment. It's going to be about 150 foot wide off of center line on both sides of the road, and it'll be a shaded fuel break that goes through there. It's worth mentioning that is going to be mechanically treated, and it's very different than what we're doing on the east-west connector. And what we, as responders and land managers, what we have to really weigh is what is the right tool for the right job, and what is the purpose of the break that we're putting in. The east-west connector, that's a defensive line for the values within that area. They also have ways to get out up there. Some smaller roads are single access and egress, serving lower numbers of communities in there, but in a lot of areas there's multiple ways to be able to get out. On the Campbell Airstrip Road, there's only one way, right? So we're a bit more aggressive with that fuels treatment because we want to have something that's in place that if we have fire on both sides of that road, we can still get public safely out. I don't know if anybody spent any time traveling through the Kenai Peninsula during the Swan Lake fire in 2019, but if you have a newspaper or news subscription, you probably saw fire on both sides of the road. We want to ensure that if we're in an environment like that, we can get people out, get them out safely, and get responders in to deal with whatever threat and risk that we have. So fuels treatments vary depending on what their application and purpose is for, and this is just a great example of it. So like I said, we're kicking that project off tomorrow. We have some other projects that we're initiating. Some of that stuff is, I guess I should have gone to this slide, but some of that stuff matters based on funding and what we can actually execute. Like I said, the majority of our fuels treatment projects are grant funded. We have to write grants specific to projects, so we have to weigh how many we're writing for the same project. So as we get awards, some of that dictates the actual project that we're going to be going to treat. But you saw our highlighted map and the projects that have been identified for treatment. We also have others on there that didn't quite make the map yet. But like I said, this is kind of the right tool for the right job. Over here, this is a shaded fuel break that was done through an area of black spruce, which is great. This is some of the pile burning. A great example of what's going on up on the east-west connector. This is a mechanical treatment, like what will be taking place on the Campbell Airstrip Road. And then some kind of hand treatment mixed with mechanical. So this is just a great example of some of the projects that we'll be doing and what they'll kind of look like afterwards. We recognize also that nobody has a great picture of what a mechanical treatment project looks like in Anchorage because we haven't done one before. So you got to bear with us a little bit as we're initiating some of these projects for the first time. And we're going to produce some multimedia to be able to share that with the group. Share that with the municipality and garner support as we move forward on some other projects as well that we have planned over the next couple of years. This is a great example of a clear cut that went through, I believe it's one of DOF's treatments down on the, I think it's up north actually, but it's a great fuel break. It's obviously fairly impactful with what it looks like, but this is something that as a firefighter looks really good to me, because it's something I can actually work off of and defend. So we recognize there's a balance, and we're trying to be as light on the landscape as we can while still meeting the intent and purpose of what we're trying to perform in the woods. Like I said, Campbell Airstrip Road, I know this is, it's something that we all like to enjoy, right? Campbell Airstrip, the BLM, Campbell Track, we all want to go out there and enjoy that. It's a very scenic route. We recognize that. Throughout our messaging for these projects that we have planned for the 2025 season and for future projects as well, we take this seriously. We recognize that this will be an impact on the viewshed and also on the user groups. We worked very, very diligently with all of the user groups and the community councils that operate in this area or live in this area. And we've tried to garner as much support as we can, and I'm happy to say that we've had some unanimous resolutions of support for this project. But part of that's because we've taken their concerns very seriously, and we're trying to adapt our project to some of those needs too. And where there's an opportunity to do that, we are doing that. So appreciate the support from these communities and recognize that as we come to a project near you, we'll be looking for the same support, and we're happy to work with you to make for sure it's exactly what we both want and need to support. Like I said, the East-West Connector, this has been a great partnership. We got a 2.1, it's actually I think about 1.2, but 200-foot wide shaded fuel break. We are doing some pile burning in there. We anticipate that for the next couple of weeks, so there'll be some smoke in the area. Anchorage Fire Department's been huge support with water tender operations and making for sure that we have all the suppression capabilities that we need if we have any challenges there. But a big shout out to Division of Forestry for all of the work they're doing with their crews in working around that area, and the public gracious enough to allow them in there and giving them some positive feedback and thanking them too. We appreciate that. And as a guy that used to run a chainsaw in the woods, it's nice when the public comes out and tells you thanks. So appreciate that. These are a couple of other projects. Halo, we have a grant that we're working with the Halo folks on. So we did some treatment in Forsyth Park. We're going to continue a little bit more in there. We're doing a retreatment of the Clark's Road slated for 2025. I actually cut on that project 20 years ago. It definitely needs retreatment. We recognize that as we're implementing new lines, that we will need to build a maintenance plan for those lines. So that's in the works with all of this that we're doing and projecting. We don't want to do a one and done. We recognize that every about 8 to 13 years, these treatments need to be gone back through. And we're actually soliciting funds and writing grants for retreatment of these previous projects as well, and then building in a system over the next, basically as we cycle through these to maintain treatments on all of them. And then trail side, this is a good example. We're coming off of looking to come off of the driving range at the Anchorage Golf Course and bisect this large area of black spruce that we have in there, provide some relief to the schools, Handshoe and Trailside Elementary. So that's another project that's on the books here for this summer. Like I said, we got to weigh some of the challenges associated with where we're putting the project, the land ownership, the public engagement. I mean, we recognize that single access and egress roads are a huge priority. Where we have the jurisdiction to go in and do effective work, we're taking that seriously, and Campbell Airstrip Road's a great example of that. But what we need to recognize also as homeowners and residents of the municipality is we don't own the right-of-way on every single road, at least 150 foot wide. That's a lot of private ownership there. So we have to have support from the residents that live within those areas if we're going to treat access and egress roads. That can be challenging at times, but we also all live in Alaska for a reason. Some of us like our trees, some of us like to not have neighbors, and that's fine as well. But we have to weigh that balance, right? So we recognize those challenges, and where we can put effective fuel treatments in, we're going to be doing that. And if we can prioritize egress roads and get buy-in from the public, then we're going to try and execute on those as well, or look for advantageous areas that protect the most values possible with each and every project. But I just want people to know there's a balance there. Like I said, these are our projects that I want to leave off. Our friends to the north in Eagle River and Chugach, we have some projects planned out there as well. I had the pleasure of speaking to some of those community councils. We also have a project planned on the north end of the installation. We're working with JBear to be able to execute that. We recognize that they have live fire training that takes place on the north end, and really that's about 2 miles from the closest home. That was the job I had before here as the fire management officer on JBear, so I'm very familiar with the threat potential there. We're looking at putting a fuel break on the north end of the installation as well. But we're working with all of these partners to try and do right for you folks within the municipality. Appreciate that, and I will turn it back over to Jeff.
Thanks, John. All right, we're going to shift our focus a little bit on the community and what the community can do, and I'll hand it over to Stephanie.
I'll resonate with what everyone else has said in saying thank you for being here physically, being online, or watching this presentation later in your available time. So we'll talk to you a little bit about outreach endeavors first. And I want to highlight that in the last 19 weeks, we've averaged 3 engagements a week amongst 2 of us to hit 55 community engagements. So we're doing our best to get the word out there about wildfire preparedness and prevention, and doing our best to get out to you guys. So we thank you for being here. This is evidence that some of our messaging is working. We did also produce a community survey because we do need and want to hear from you. I thank everyone who has completed the survey, and I want to reassure anyone who has not that there is still time, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to also extend gratitude to the mayor for appropriating funds and for the assembly approving the appropriation of those funds for outreach funding, as she mentioned earlier. With that funding, we're going to do quite a bit with it, but immediately we were able to create a postcard campaign as well as a Facebook ad that reached more than 130,000 people. I'm still getting data from that, and every single day I check, more and more people received that information. So that's super exciting and evidence of the work that we're able to do with funding. I also want to say thank you to Alaska's News Source because they matched funding that we utilized from the mayor's appropriation for our Ready, Set, Go PSA, which stars yours truly, Chief Schrage. That should be visible on Alaska's News Source starting today and runs throughout the summer and hopefully into the fall. We've also updated and will continue to update our website. You'll probably hear me say wildfire.muni.org 10,000 times now and in the future. And the reason is that is our means to really get information out to you. If you have feedback on information that you would like to see on there, please do not hesitate to let us know that. For those that are online, you are the first, I bet you didn't know that, first to test our brand new YouTube channel. So with that, I get the honor of announcing that starting in a week or 2, we are going to initiate Wildfire Wednesdays every other week, barring crazy incidents occurring or getting pulled in a different direction. We will be producing bi-weekly updates visible on our YouTube channel and recorded for later viewing with updates of what's happening in the community, what we're expecting coming up, and or education if that's pertinent as well. So one of our big initiatives is the Firewise program. So I'd like everyone to raise your hand if you're aware of what Firewise is. Perfect. Keep your hands up. Oh, keep them up, but only drop them. Keep them up if your property is Firewise. All right, now you can lower them down. All right, so I want to reiterate and emphasize that the Anchorage Fire Department offers free Firewise property assessments. We do not have any sort of enforcement authority on these Firewise assessments, so it really behooves you to at least get the information as to what you can do to best prepare and defend your property in the event of a wildfire. And then we did initiate, and we've done just a very soft launch at this juncture of what we're calling My Property is Firewise. For this initiative, we are asking you that if your property is Firewise, so everybody that just kept their hands up, to go in and complete the form on our website to notify us that your property is Firewise. We're doing that for a few reasons. We want to track the effectiveness of this program, figure out where we may need to engage more resources and efforts into educating the public about Firewise. And it also actually helps us when it comes to suppression. We know maybe this neighborhood, all of their properties are Firewise and this neighborhood isn't. And maybe we need to delve out our resources to make sure that we're prepared for what we're about to see once we get into a neighborhood. Along with Firewise, when you're doing all of that work, is what do you do with all of the debris? Well, there is a free, through a partnership with Solid Waste Services, there are free woodlots that we've mentioned already. Those are available in Midtown as well as Eagle River. And then Chugach Electric partnered with Girdwood Fire Department, and they will be hosting Chipper Days on both June 5th and 6th, and there's information on our website about the Chipper Days. I want to point out, because this is a common question, that we do not or are no longer offering reimbursements for work that is being done on properties. That was a grant-funded opportunity that is no longer existent. The grant doesn't even exist anymore. Trust you me, that's one of my responsibilities, is looking for and writing for grants, and so far I've seen nothing that even remotely replaces that opportunity. So what do? Well, we have our neighbors. And so I highly encourage you, especially if your property is fire-wise, and maybe you have a neighbor who is unable to physically, financially, whatever, and you can help them out, please go offer. And if you know of a neighbor that could help you, please go ask and build that common bond and that cooperative effort. And with the cooperative effort, as we've mentioned, we're going to have a panel of experts later, and two of these experts are going to be Troy Rice and Dirk Sisson from the Basher Community Council. We're super thrilled to have them here, and all I can say and can't say enough is that they have done a phenomenal job as an entire community to create and practice a wildfire preparedness plan. They actually were gracious enough to create packets that are usable for leadership within communities, HOAs, to create their own plan. And I have a select few number of packets back at the back, and then I will also put it on our website for printing. They have collaborated amongst neighbors to derive this plan. They've engaged the local fire station, Station 14, to drill with them, give them feedback, and it's just been phenomenal to see their efforts. So as you're looking for things to do as a resident, that is a massive thing, is to get together with your neighbors, start deriving a plan. Feel free to ask for feedback, but get that plan going, and we can help guide you from there. Along with that there is a community group called, abbreviated, WUICAT, so the Wildland Urban Interface Community Action Team. You can see why they abbreviated it. They have a monthly Zoom meeting, and this is a community member-driven group, but we are very, very thankful as the fire department to have been invited, and we do contribute typically on a monthly basis. So if you are a leader within your community council, I do have a QR code to their website. Check the group out, reach out to them, and they can help direct you and inform you into how they are running their side of the business, as well as, again, I think I mentioned it here, yes. So Mr. Troy Weiss not only is the Basher Community Council Vice President, Resiliency Committee leader, he is also the president of WUICAT. So he's your guy. And I will close for now with RAVE and Smart 911 system. So a common question that we receive a lot is, how are we going to know if there's a wildfire? How do we know if we need to evacuate? And the biggest thing that we can encourage you to do is to sign up for the Smart 911 service, also known as RAVE. Those terms are used interchangeably. You can see on the screen, if you text Anchorage to that phone number, you'll be guided through the form. Alternatively, you can also go onto the website. We have a link directly on our webpage. The Office of Emergency Management has a link. Complete that form. You can customize the alerts that you do and do not want, and that is going to be your prime opportunity for receiving notifications about incidents, including wildfires. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right, I know we're running a little bit long. We have two more presentations that'll be a little shorter. First is John talking about evacuations, and ready, set, go.
When you're a division of 2 and just now 3, you give me a multiple times. So thanks for your patience. All right, so we're going to talk evacuations and ready, set, go. I'll keep this brief because we do have a ton of information on our website about this, and I recognize that we do want to get to some panel stuff. So I'm not being dismissive of it, just trying to appreciate everybody's time. A couple of things here. So like I mentioned, we have a ton of single access and egress routes within the Anchorage Municipality, some that are large and long and some that are relatively short. some that are problematic due to the fuels, topography, and just location overall. We recognize that, and really the best way that we can prepare for any type of emergency within the municipality is understanding our Ready, Set, Go, and the evacuation process and how that will be disseminated. So like Steph said, the Smart 911 and Rave Alert system is the majority of what we're going to use to distro that information. But the biggest part of that is that happens once we have an established emergency and we start getting the coordination going, right? When we actually have a start and we have something moving fast through the municipality, we as residents and homeowners, we need to have a plan internally for what we're going to do. That starts right now, right? So that's part of what that Ready, Set, Go is. If you live in Anchorage and you live within our urban interface or intermix, you should be postured and ready all the time, okay? That's the bottom line. When we elevate and we get into set, which we'll go over some of those slides here in a bit, that's when we need to be ready to go with our go bag and be ready to exit if we actually have an evacuation notification. When we're initial attacking a fire and responding to something, there is a likelihood that you will get information telling you to leave from a firefighter or from a patrol officer as things are evolving, because we don't pick the location of these fires, right? As we gain some stability on the incident and we get our incident command structure set up, then we'll start messaging out through the Rave Alert system and through Smart 911, and you'll start getting some maps and some polygons and more in-depth information. But we just need to be well aware of what our process is for where we live, what our plan is internally, and doing that now. So I guess with that as well, we've had the opportunity to work directly with the Anchorage Police Department, our EOC, and the Office of Emergency Services in helping build and generate a plan for how we're going to distro that communication if we're responding to an incident. We've had some very thorough training. Like I said, I was able to present in the fallout training to patrol officers so we can walk them through kind of how we're going to implement this if we have a real life event, and how we're going to execute and integrate between operations and actually evacuations. So that's been really, really phenomenal to see that happen and see that progress, answer their questions, and participate in leading that training. So like I said, Ready, Set, Go. We want to make for sure that we're ready. We have our information. We know where we're going to go. We have a plan in place. We know our egress route. What does that mean if you have kids that are staying home while you're at work in the summertime? They're aware. We have some plan with our neighbors. We know how to get them out. We know who can cover for us if we need to, and somebody's available to make that happen. It also means that we're planning for our pets and all of that. We recognize that we have a lot of equestrian areas up on the hillside as well within the municipality overall, so we just have a plan for all of those things. When we get into that set status, we're postured and prepared to enact that. And we're thinking about a 2-hour time window or something along those lines where we can actually initiate that action plan and get our folks and get our loved ones and get our valuables out of that area. We want to make for sure that we have our prescription drugs, anything that we need to be able to survive for a week or so away from home. We recognize that that's a challenge, but we want to be prepared for that and recognize that if we live in an area where we could succumb to this type of emergency, that we want to be prepared for it. And then obviously when we get into go, that means now. We need to be moving. We need to get out of that area. We need to allow our firefighters to get in, make access, and start working the areas that they need to work. We need to move our loved ones, move our pets, and get our valuables and get the critical items out of our homes and get to a safe location and allow our firefighters and our operations personnel to get in there and do what they're supposed to do. I know it's hard. We have a lot of hardy, resilient folks. What I can tell you is I've been doing this a long time. There's a lot of people that will choose to stay and try and defend their own home. And typically, when we get into a pretty complex and challenging fire environment, they decide to change their minds, and it's a bit challenging to try and facilitate that action. They oftentimes will hamper operations because we're trying to maintain accountability of those folks. It's a big challenge for suppression firefighters to go in there and work around an area where we have a ton of people that are trying to stick around. So we just encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity that you have now to harden your home and prepare it. so you can feel safe in evacuating out of it, and know that you've done your part to help the firefighters gain success in defending your home if we're in a wildland fire emergency. Cool. Like I said, I keep it brief so we can get our next presenter back up.
Great, thanks, John. Okay, one more. Yep. Great. One more update on the community wildfire protection planning that's going on right now.
I won't speak as quickly as John, but I'll do my best. All right, so what is a Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP as you may hear us refer to it as? It is a strategic plan. It's what are we good at, what do we need to maintain, and what can we do to improve? So this is also a key to unlock grant funding. So we've mentioned grant funding a lot tonight, including the mitigation projects. A lot of the grants that I apply for, especially the federal ones, want that community wildfire protection plan. So we're super excited to be updating ours. The last time it was updated was in 2008. And so we are very, very ready to get this, well, we've had this ball rolling. It started back in October, but we're really excited to get it actually complete. So who is involved might be a key question. First and foremost, we have solicited and engaged a contractor to help us out. Again, an office of two, we can only do so much. So we have Bentel Incorporated. They're actually online and listening as well and available in case there are specific questions to them. But they are helping us out significantly with organizing this entire project and making sure that all of our boxes get checked. And then all of the agencies listed on this side of the screen, as well as many, many more, we ran out of space on this slide, are involved in this. So we have 40 plus people who meet on a bi-monthly basis in one room, and then multiple meetings in between those to discuss this project and to start ticking off everything that we need to accomplish. But even more important and truly is that you are part of our project. How are you a part of it? By being here tonight, this is a component of our Community Wildfire Protection Plan process. So you've completed the survey and or you're going to complete the survey, and you're asking questions, providing us comment tonight. This is a significant value to us so that we make sure that we're not missing anything. We're residents within this community, but so are you, and your voices are just as important. And then also, let's see, coming this fall, we will be hosting a public comment period. There will be more information to come with specific dates as we get closer to that. I highly encourage you to sign up on our website for updates. There is an update email list specifically for the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. That comes directly from me through our wildfire email, so it's not a third-party service or anything like that. And I'm doing my best to provide meeting minutes and any other updates that I think would be of interest to you. If you have any questions, certainly do not hesitate to ask. With that said, I've mentioned the survey a couple times. One more hand raising. How many of you were able to complete the survey? Awesome. Ethan, do you have those slips of paper? Perfect. Or Efren. All right, so if you completed the survey by May 1st and you are physically present today, we had some awesome donations from both Rice and Company and Tall Trees with some gift certificates, so we will raffle those off. Alan Levi? They had to be physically present. Thank you. We wrote all of the names of the people who completed the survey by May 1st on a slip of paper, and then checklist of who's here. Ted Trueblood? There's a list, but I assure you it's not super long. Mickey Ross. Ephraim, we might have to have Chief Parch draw. Penny? I know. Joe? Raise your hand if you completed it and you're here. Okay, we have more than gift certificates, otherwise I'd just hand them out. Yay! So Margie, we'll save your sheet, and then I will find you and or you find me, and I'll get your information. We have a total of 4, so we have 3 to go. I didn't see, where's John? All right, perfect. Yay, awesome. Woohoo! All right, yep, that is it.
Door prizes and all. Okay. All right, so that concludes the presentation portion of tonight. A couple of notes, there are some great materials back here at the tables, everything from Firewise to Ready, Set, Go, so I encourage you to grab a few of those on your way out. We are gonna transition now, so we'll take about a 10-minute break, and we're gonna set up the stage here as a panel, and we'll start the questions here in about 10 minutes. So at 8:10, we'll start.
Thank you, though, for these. Oh, hi. Hi. Nice to see you again. You know, I didn't get to go to your house, but Jeff went up to your house and he checked all the stuff. He said, you tell your mom what you guys can do outside to protect yourselves from wildfire. Oh my gosh, the lights are killing me. Like, what's happening? It's just old electrical work, I think, in this building, which makes me nervous because I do building firefighters protection. Because wildfire and structure fire are so separated. Yeah. I did structure fire. Yeah. These stage lights are. I'm sitting up here like. I know. You guys should sit up there and just fan me the rest of the panel. I jokes. Yeah, I can go kill it because it's gonna catch on fire any second now.
Yeah, we can kill it, that'd be awesome. Huh? Thanks.
Okay, I think we've got. All right. And we'll get started here in about 5 minutes.
Who's got the we need the third mic, the yellow one.
Probably wouldn't hurt for the assembly to all sit together.
I'll wait then for my colleague.
Okay.
Share that. We got more chairs. Right behind you, Jeff.
All right.
Hey, Jeff, did you guys come in order of the list? Do you want?
No. No, just wherever?
Yeah.
Okay. More chairs.
I don't mind kind of standing off to the side either if we run out.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Zach,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well.
Scoot you over a little bit, maybe.
Here you go, Troy.
Nice to meet you, Zach.
A couple more chairs. We grab two more real quick.
Is my nose shiny? Or
Let
my
me get
head
that for
shiny?
you. You're gonna be all right.
So
You go down to one?
I'm gonna take my name off, yeah, and you're gonna take your name off too?
Yeah, so
And
it's
we'll
just gonna be
let-
Zach.
We'll let Zach represent the assembly.
Perfect.
Yeah, it looks like you're running out of space.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, about a minute to go. If you guys could find your seats, it'd be much appreciated. Okay, I think we'll get started. All right, so obviously we've got a bunch of really smart people up here, and we'll be able to answer some questions. We also have some questions possibly online, so we'll have two microphones out here, and if you have a question, if you wouldn't mind moving towards the aisle, and we've got one microphone up here and on that side there. All right, great. And then I've got the other microphone up here. So, again, this is a wildfire town hall, so we want to keep the questions specific to wildfire and preparedness here in the municipality of Anchorage. And I've got a long list here to go through. So, on my far left, we've got John Glover, Division Chief of Wildfire, Aviva Braun with the National Weather Service, Eric Stallin with the Chugach National Forest, he's a fire staff officer there, and Joe, oh boy, Polovi, JP, with the Anchorage Wastewater Utility and Water Distribution Superintendent. Amanda Loach from the Anchorage Emergency Management Office. All right, and we've also got Julie Hasquet from Chugach Electric and Andrew Laughlin with Chugach Electric. All right, and Assembly Member Zach Johnson there in the middle. Sergeant Steve Childers with the Anchorage Police Department. Michelle Weston with the Girdwood Fire and Rescue. Again, Norm McDonald with the State Division of Forestry and Fire Protection, and Jared Hammett with the Bureau of Land Management, and two more, Dirk Sisson and Troy Weiss with the Basher Community Council. So we'll start with questions, and it looks like we've got somebody moving up front here, and I'll hand this mic as appropriate.
Good, it's going. Hi, anyone can answer this. I've done some volunteer work with ski patrol and stuff like that, and I wanted to know what training programs that are going to be happening for the community to get trained to be part of the action, to be part of you know, the ground action or whatever. You know, you always need somebody at ground zero to help do this and that. You know, food, lodging. You know, direct things, dispatching things, you know, stuff like that. Thanks.
Cool. So, yep, sweet. All right. I think the question was what kind of training is offered to the public for supporting type of incident or anything that we have going on as it relates to wildland fire. So what I can say to that is the State of Alaska Division of Forestry offers red card training for all of their personnel and anybody within the state of Alaska, different geographies throughout the state. Palmer hosts one, Tok, Delta, Fairbanks, all of those areas. So they put on a couple of different red card classes, which is the mandatory training that you need to be able to support on a wildland fire incident. Most of those have taken place already. They usually offer them in April. But we also, there is the availability for other online training that you can, as a community member, you can click on different links and videos. We have some of that information on our website where you can just get more educated on what you can do to help out. And really what we've been encouraging at our community council meetings, because there's a lot of folks within the municipality that are very interested in helping out. And at every community council meeting that Stephanie and I have presented at, which is pushing 50 now, for as many people that want to volunteer, we have almost twice as many that need help. So what we have really tried to encourage is for folks that want and have a desire to help out within their community, to attend their local community council meeting and just reach out to those folks that are there, maybe don't have the resources or the means to be able to do for themselves on their property. But if you have an interest in getting active within the community, that's a great place to start, and you can start with your neighbor. Lots of folks, we recognize that, clearing trees and cutting them down and hauling the brush away is arduous and challenging. So that's the greatest spot where you can focus your efforts for community engagement and support.
I just wanted to share, for any Girdwood residents out there, or also Indian Bird and Portage, we do have a Girdwood CERT team, and we welcome new members, and we'll train you to help us on events.
While you have the mic, what is CERT?
Community Emergency Response Team.
All right, great. And I have a question from online. Is Girdwood included in the Community Wildfire Protection Plan update?
Yes, Girdwood has been participating in the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and I'm happy to say I did tour the consultants around for about 4 hours. Also, we went down to Portage. We haven't done Bird and Indian yet and Rainbow, but we have done Girdwood.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else in the audience? Yeah, we've got a question there, Ethan.
So I've had fire-wise assessments in years past, and one of the things I always hear is the fire person will say, you have a lot of dried, tall grass that comes from the woods up toward their house, and in a fire it would dry out really fast, and you need to do something about that grass. But I have no idea what to do with the grass. It can't be mowed, it's on rough, uneven ground, and you must be running into this problem elsewhere. What do you do with this tall grass that, I guess it's sawgrass, that dries out and burns fast in a fire? What are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah, great question. It's not just here in Anchorage, it's all over the state. John, you want to take that one?
Sure, unless Norm wants
We should have moved you closer.
That's all right. I'll just stand in the middle. People can take shots. Okay, so the tall grass, so a couple of things. One, if we can mow it, that's one of the best things to do. If we can keep that grass level down, that's super beneficial to us, whether it's weed whacked or mowed or whatever, that's most advantageous. The other thing that we can do is just keep it wet. If we have any ability to engage sprinklers out there, if we have we're on a hot, dry day, or maybe we have an advancing wildland fire, anything that we can do to set up some sprinklers and keep that fuel load moistened, that's most beneficial to us. It doesn't take much because it is that grass, so it receives that water really fast and will significantly reduce the fire behavior that moves through that if it does advance up to it. So a couple of easy, people always ask do I need a giant tank or anything like that at my house? And I was a hot shot for a long, long time, and just a little bit of water makes a huge difference for us when we're responding to wildland fires. So if you have a 55-gallon drum and you put that next to your gutter system, that's 55 gallons of water that we didn't have before. If you have your water lines charged and your hoses connected, if you're evacuating out of an area, that's super advantageous to us. If you set up your sprinklers before you leave, or just keep that area within that 30-foot zone to your house wet, that's very advantageous for us as well. So those are the recommendations that I would say. Try and keep it trimmed if you can. If you can't, keep it wet.
And while you have the mic, I've got an online question. When and how will updates to the Community Wildfire Protection Plan get announced and shared? And how can they get a copy once it's approved?
Okay, so that document will be public once it's finished. Like Stephanie said, we're working on distroing that information and engaging with our public. We have routine updates that will be posted on the website. As we get more, we will share more information at wildfire.muni.org as well. So we'll keep all of our CWPP information up to date there. You can click on the links. If you have specific questions or concerns, you can email us at wildfire@muni.org.
Great. Any other questions from the audience? Start on the far side.
If you've got any equipment that could be made available to firefighters in an emergency, water trucks, dozer, skid steer, 6-inch water pump, who would you get your name listed with?
That would be through, for the state, we have a program called OLAS. It's the online agreement system, and I can get you a number directly after this. The call would be the dispatch in Palmer. And if you have equipment like dozers or boats or anything that you want to make available, we put that on our online site, and then if there's an emergency, we can call when needed. So I can work with you offline if you'd like to learn a little more about that.
Great question. All right, was there another one on this side?
Hi, thank you. I think this is probably for Norm, but for utility corridors and other areas that are going to contain fuels but aren't necessarily managed by any individual landowner, who handles fuel mitigation in those? And are there any other roles for people that, or organizations like Includna Inc. or Siri that has summer interns and people that are looking to hire seasonal and physical young men type jobs to do fuel mitigation without being red card fire trained?
Okay, so 2 questions there. We've got a power line question, and who maintains that? I'll hand that off to Chugach Electric.
So for power line maintenance, we generally mulch and disperse much of the fuels within the right-of-way. A lot of it is, outside of the right-of-way. It is, if it's a danger tree or something like that, it is dropped and limbed and bucked and left in place. For the most part, our priority is to reduce the risk of a power line contact from a tree or some overhead obstruction like that, and then so that improves reliability and also reduces the risk of a wildfire. So we don't really do a lot other than mulching and scattering the fuel in the area.
Great. John, you want to take that? Sure.
And a big thanks to CEA for all the work that they're doing. They've been working with us directly, and they're being very proactive about how they're approaching risk for wildland fires as it relates to all of their infrastructure that they have. So that's been a great partnership this spring so far. As far as I believe you mentioned Includna Inc. and some of their resources that they have and supporting wildfire mitigation. So we've actually had a fair amount of engagement with Includna Inc. and the tribe itself on some of their property and in-holdings. They own a fair amount of the land where we're looking to do at least the fuel break on the north side of Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, as well as through Eagle River Valley and Highland. They have been super receptive and open to us working within their land and working on that property and basically that adjoining space. So that partnership's going really well. If they have resources that they can dedicate to that, they're very welcome to reach out to our office, and we can help them figure out the right place to put a fuel break on their own property since they have ownership and jurisdiction for that. So I would welcome that call and be happy to work with those folks and engage them to help support the municipality.
And while you have the mic. Yes, sir. So John, you talked a little bit about evacuations and a little bit on what that looks like in real life. So we know that we've got the Smart 911 and the state has iPause. What if that system goes down? How will the public get notified in real time?
Good question. So you and I and Norm and Michelle, we've all worked on a multitude of fires across the West where we've lost cell tower communications, we've had power outages, all of that stuff. As operations folks in the field, the way we handle a situation like that is we halt suppression operations and we focus strictly on life safety, and our firefighters working with emergency response, whether it's APD or the troopers or anybody else, we go straight into evacuation notifications and literally start going door to door to start making for sure we can get people out of an incident. We'll focus on the most threatened areas, but that's what we're used to doing. That's how we engage. I have done that multiple times throughout my career as a hotshot and as a fire manager. So that's our backup plan. We just start working off of our radios and basically gridding the area that we have for humans and folks that are at risk and start pushing them out of any threatened area.
All right. Any other audience questions?
I'm impressed with your planning, with coordinating all the different agencies, but some of the great disasters have occurred because agencies have been unable to talk to each other in an emergency situation because of different radio frequencies, different equipment. Have you guys had actual drills to be sure you can really communicate with each other when the chips are down?
We do, and you're right. It's one of the biggest challenges we have is communication. It has been since I started, and we still have challenges now, even with all the technology we have. But we do train together with Anchorage and all of our fire departments, Alaska State Troopers, and I know Anchorage and APD train together. So we do train on that every year. We've got frequencies that were compatible and a communications plan that we can turn to run an incident. I was on the Miller's Reach fire in 1996, and we had one frequency that worked between the division, the responders, and the fire departments, and we are much further along than we were then. So still a challenge, but we're in a much better place than we were 20 years ago. Michelle, did you want to add something?
Oh, I just wanted to say, for us down in Girdwood, we have Whittier Police, but then we also work with APD on the highway and also with the state troopers. So we are able to get patches done between radio communications, so we're able to talk interoperably now, well, in most cases. So it's a huge improvement to be able to talk to our law enforcement partners when we have an emergency.
Great. Should have had another mic.
Hey, so on that note too, we talked about system failures and stuff like that. We have a redundancy plan as well in place. Patching radios is hard. It also creates an overrun of the system. But in our training with Anchorage Police Department specifically, especially as it relates to evacuations, one of the things that we're doing is marrying our operations person directly with the sergeant that's overseeing the field officers that are supporting the evacuation. So that's how we've been training. That's how we've been planning throughout the entirety of the spring season. Their leadership has been integrated through all of our interagency training and our cooperative training with the State of Alaska Division of Forestry. So we have redundancies built in for our plan as well. We're taking this very seriously. We recognize the challenges, but we will have a human next to a human wearing different uniforms to be able to deal with this challenge.
All right. Any other questions in the room? Got one there.
Will you be putting out a list of evacuation places where people can go to?
Hi, my name is Amanda Loach. I'm with the Office of Emergency Management. So the way that we deal with sheltering and temporary reception is we actually look at each incident and we decide what are the best facilities for that particular location and for the conditions of the hazard that's happening.
All right. So the other thing too is we recognize that wherever the location of the incident is will dictate where we're going to be sheltering people. We deal with that all the time across the West when we're dealing with large-scale incidents. Sockeye and McKinley Fire were great examples of that. Where we typically land people is at schools. That's a great receptacle for folks that are being evacuated. Through all of our interagency planning, Anchorage School District's been involved in that, so we're posturing for that, planning and being prepared to receive folks at various locations that we might be sheltering.
Great. We have one over on that side. All right.
Hi, I'm John Waddleton, and I've been kind of a community spectator on these things for 25 years, and this really feels much bigger than anything I've seen in that time. But my question is, houses are fuel, and is there any effort to really educate and promote Firewise construction?
I'll go, and then you got something to add. How's that? All right. Yes, houses are fuel. We have been working through all of our community outreach to try and talk about Firewise. That's our greatest effort. New construction, stuff like that, that's where we can kind of advance and make progress. We actually have a luncheon scheduled with some of our home builders in I believe that's next month, Katie, is that correct? All right, so we're going to be providing some information to those folks, so as they're looking at different areas to be building and new construction, we can give them the most specific information possible to kind of deal with some of those adaptations and try and build the right way for wherever they're placing the home. Did you want to add anything, Michelle?
In the first version of the wildfire program here, we did do a look at doing a wildfire overlay district, which had fire-resistive housing requirements. The municipality ultimately chose not to go that route, but that was a process that went. One of the good news is with the new construction, there is more fire-resistive materials. You don't see a lot of wood shake roofs anymore, which is a huge issue with fire starts. So there are some improvements that have happened in the last 20 years.
Great. Okay, and we've got one over here.
I'd like to thank everybody. This has been really interesting, and I've learned a lot tonight. My question is, we've heard a lot about FEMA being possibly eliminated and reduction in employment with all the federal agencies. So what can we expect in changes, both with prevention efforts and emergency response efforts from the federal agencies?
I think we are seeing some reductions. We don't have a real clear picture about where those are and what they, what the impacts truly are. I can speak for FEMA, that's the recovery branch, and we work with them through an FMAG process, emergency reimbursement for fire suppression costs, and that is still on track, and the people we worked with last year are still the people we're working with this year. So I don't see any really delays or impacts there. I think on the fire suppression piece of it nationally, and it's not only federal, it's state agencies as well. We've seen a reduced workforce over the last 10 to 15 years for a variety of reasons, and I know for the federal agencies are seeing an impact this year. Last year we had 41 incident management teams available in the country. This year the estimates are 36 to 37, so those are the large teams that manage our large fires around in the western states and nationally. So that's kind of just a snapshot of what we see now. I think by the end of the season we'll have a much better idea of truly what those impacts are and where some of the shortages are.
All right. We'll hear from Eric with the U.S. Forest Service.
Yep, so I'm one of those federal agencies. I'm Eric Song with the U.S. Forest Service, and I actually manage the Chugach and Tongass National Forest, so all the rainforest for the most part, except for that little paradise that we have on the Kenai Peninsula there. So, really, we do have impacts to our workforce right here, but we feel confident in what we're going to be able to bring in regards to our response organization. So that's still an emphasis for our agency, and we're still continuing to practice and prepare with our interagency partners for this fire season. So the Forest Service in Alaska is ready to go for the fire season for this year.
Great. All right. Looks like we've got another question over here, and then we'll go back to this side of the room.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this evening. This is probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened to the Anchorage fire-wise thoughts. The idea that people are working together, that the agencies are working together, and that the community is involved is totally exciting for those of us who are a lot smarter than me and have been around for a lot longer. My one area of concern is something that I heard a little bit earlier this evening about funding that's going to run out in a couple of years. We need a lot more than a couple of years to deal with this issue. We've been letting things go for, 20 years? It's going to take some more time than this. So what can we, as the general public, do on a local, state, and federal level to ensure that this program continues far past 27?
All right, who wants that one?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm Zach Johnson with the Anchorage Assembly. The Biggest thing I would ask the community is to continue to advocate, right? I mean, we have so much momentum right now, and we're doing so much more than we have in the last 15 or 20 years, and that's really exciting, but we need to make sure that we do not lose sight of that. We might get lucky for a couple years with the weather, and we might start to get complacent, and we just can't let that happen. Now, we are living in resource-constrained environment, right? Budgets are tight at all levels of government right now, and so there are a lot of things competing for our attention and those scarce resources, but this needs to continue to be a priority. So, I mean, I know for myself, while I'm in elected office, I will hold on to that message, but there will be people that come after me, and we need the folks in the community to continue to remind us that this is important, right? Whether we have the big fire next year, the year after, whenever it happens, we need to make sure that we do not lose sight and we stay prepared. But I can say with confidence for where we are today, the elected officials in Anchorage, the mayor's office, the assembly, we all see this as a priority. We've all made a commitment to make sure that we're devoting the resources we need to towards this, and that we continue to use our voice to advocate at the state and federal level to make sure that they're helping us out as well.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I'll just add to that a little bit. Zach's exactly right. We're in a resource-constrained environment. None of us knows what the future is going to hold, especially with the concern around federal funding. Right now, our wildfire program is funded almost exclusively, not entirely, from federal dollars. A congressionally directed spending tranche that Senator Murkowski got for us. We've also received a couple $100,000 from the Alaska State Legislature, pass-through grant for the HALO organization that we've been helping with, and we just can't predict what the future will bring. We have the money now, so we're trying to make as big of an impact as we can. Thinking ahead about the future, much of the work that John and Stephanie are doing is work that could conceivably be funded with grants in the future. Most of those grants will not pay for permanent employees, so we will certainly be looking to the municipality in the next few years when this grant starts coming to its end to fund the positions that manage this program, and then hopefully rely on some of these grants to continue the project work. But I'm very confident in the level of support that we currently have, and I have no concerns that any of the momentum that we have demonstrated is going to evaporate in the next couple of years.
Great. Mayor? There you go.
Thank you so much. And I just want to add that public safety is the most important job of our local government. And while I know that the funding only goes through 2027, we will be looking at ways to ensure it continues, because we can't have another 20-year gap. We can't have any gap. And so that's something that we'll be looking at, and with the department to see how we can work with the assembly to ensure that we have steady funding for this really critical work that you all are doing. Thank you.
Great. Okay, any more questions from the room? Just doing a time check here. Still got about 15 minutes or so.
So many of our homes are adjacent to public lands that have no vegetation, no hint of brush management. So we can get our properties fire-wise, but we can't stop the fire that's going to come up a gorge or up a hillside, okay, on public lands that we're not supposed to even touch. So my question for you is about home protection, fire retardant, and if you have any recommendations on the correct product to purchase and how to use it. Because frankly, if a fire is coming across public property, when it hits the border of my property, I want fire retardant, something to try to slow down that fire as it tries to move from land that I'm not allowed to touch towards my home.
Great. John, you want to grab that?
If I may real quick, and I think it's sort of tangential to the question you asked, and then I'll hand this off to John. we've raised this issue with the state, and there was legislation introduced this year. I believe it's passed the House and Senate. I'm not sure if the governor signed it yet, but to allow us to go into Schrage State Park, to grant easements to the municipality, right, to do some of that work inside their lands where necessary. But that was in your, like I said, I believe it's passed the House and the Senate. I have to double check whether or not the governor signed it yet, but I think we feel pretty confident about that one. I wish I could give you a more definitive answer right now, but it's something we've advocated for, and it's something we know the legislature is working on. But to the retardant question, I'll hand over to John.
All right, thanks. I guess I also want to say that public lands, state and municipal, right? Like we have Parks and Rec that's here as well, and they've been working with us throughout the entire winter to make for sure that we have the right strategy to implement on their lands with our resources and their resources. So we have a multitude of land ownership within the Anchorage municipality. I think this is a testament on how we are approaching this and taking this seriously. And as we have the resources and funding mechanisms to actually treat that property, we are doing that actively, and we have a plan for it. As far as the retardant and application and stuff like that, there's a multitude of products that are online. There's, trying to think of we had a vendor that was at an event not too long ago, but if you actually search online for different types of gel, fire retardant gel and stuff like that, you can find some information about that. It's not cheap, but it's something that electrical companies will use, and also other infrastructure companies will use to actually protect their homes. So there's some information on that. If you want to email me directly, I can put you in contact with some of those folks that sell that stuff. I don't have the vendors on the top of my head. But the biggest thing is, like I said, treating your property where you can, and nobody's going to complain if you shoot a little water further off your property. So that's a good defensive posture that you can take in the event that we have an advancing fire. So whatever water resources you have and sprinkler systems that you have, you can engage those and try and treat some of that if you have an advancing fire.
While you have the mic. Yes, sir. All right, a couple online questions here. If there is a nearby fire, should we do anything with our wood pile near our woodshed? What should we do with that, John?
Yes. Okay, well, first of all, you should make sure that wood pile is not next to your house or under your deck. I don't know, you guys probably stacked that wood pile, and you recognize how arduous and challenging it is to move it again. So when a fire truck shows up with 2 folks, and they could be doing some treatment to your actual property, and instead they're having to focus on removing the wood pile that you have stacked underneath your deck, that slows things down. The easiest thing is have it positioned away from your house 30 feet or more, and then if you can run a sprinkler out to it, that is great. That just dampens that whole thing. Anywhere that's stacked and it could receive an ember is going to be wet, and it's not going to combust. So that's the best thing that we could tell you to do. Another simple thing, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but even if you cover it with a plastic tarp and run a sprinkler on that, that will actually dampen any embers that fall, and then you're not ruining your wood supply as well. So that's the way we treat it as well.
Great, thanks, John. Any other questions from the audience? Yep, we've got one there.
There's always room for improvement. In English, we say that, right? May I suggest one?
Sure.
Give yourself a raise. A good work should be appreciated.
Thank you. Right.
I was just curious how much trouble I could get in for keeping that utility corridor clear between my daughter's house and her neighbor. There's only a sewer line on that, so there's no wires that I have to worry about taking down. But is it
maybe we'll take that one offline.
Is it something you can get in trouble for?
Great question. Why don't we take that one offline? I think there was a question back there. Yep. Define trouble. No, I'm kidding.
Hi. The sergeant's looking left out, so this is for him. 4th of July fireworks seem to be a risk. What can we do about that? Education seems to have been a spectacular failure. So.
Yes, fireworks, 4th of July.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still illegal to have fireworks here in the municipality, so if you can call it in, we get a ton of those on 4th of July or maybe New Year's Eve. There are a limited number of officers working at the time, so you may have to call several times. Depends on the level of priority of what it is, depending on what else is going on in the city. You might get frustrated with us in that we just can't make it there when they're doing it, and of course we've seen it at least in my neighborhood where they shoot off some fireworks and then run back inside, and getting to them is a challenge, to say the least. But if we can get to it, we do confiscate the fireworks themselves, and we have them destroyed after the fact.
I would like to add that in each of the last 2 years, the police chief and I have jointly issued zero tolerance statement on the use of fireworks during those periods of time. So it is something we're taking very seriously. We hope it has a deterrent effect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, got a couple more here I'd like to get through. Kind of a longer one, but I think it's good. I have done everything in my yard and around my house to set a safe fire zone as much as possible. I've talked to my neighbors who are not interested. Some of my neighbors, trees hanging over the fence, and some limbs come within feet or inches of my house. I continue to clear my yard and roof of the debris that comes from those trees. Is there anything a homeowner can do to clear a safe zone from an overhanging hazard? And can a homeowner cut the tree limbs hanging over the fence in their yard? Hot potato, who wants that one?
You gonna arrest me if I kill the neighbor's tree? Why don't we take that question about the easement?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if you'll get arrested for something like that. I would defer to Sergeant Childers here, but what I can tell you is if it's not yours, then I wouldn't go and cut it unless you want to have a Hatfield and McCoy situation on your hand. But what I would encourage you to do is just reach out to that neighbor, go to them directly, see if you can build a relationship and come to some common ground on that. Most people are pretty receptive to that. They might not have the resources to deal with that tree themselves. Maybe you do, and you guys can figure out a happy medium there. Unfortunately, when somebody's tree is on somebody else's property, then it puts us at a bit of a disadvantage to deal with that threat. But looks like the fire chief is coming up to add a little bit to that, so appreciate that, Chief.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thanks for the question. And I'm not going to give you the answer that you were hoping for, but if you are in a situation where you're the only home in your neighborhood or on your street that has taken Firewise seriously, please don't be discouraged from keeping that up, because there's many, many examples where a single Firewise home in the middle of some place gets burned over, and the Firewise home is the one that remains unscathed. Obviously, we prefer that everybody Firewise their homes, but we also acknowledge that people have a right not to participate. So please don't be discouraged and Firewise your home. And public pressure, get your neighbors together, and it can be very convincing.
Hi, Julie Haskowitz, Ugach Electric. I feel remiss if I don't take this moment, since we're talking about utility easements, to just mention, please never try to cut a tree out of a power line. That's very dangerous. You said there's no lines, but also the way you can support Chugach and our efforts with this fire prevention is when you see Carlos Tree Clearing, who's our contractor, come to clear the trees from the easements, to please not fight them. Clear easements with no vegetation are how we repair power outages. It's how we maintain our power systems, and as the chief will tell you, it can be used as fire breaks and evacuation routes. So please support the vegetation management that's going on this summer and actually all year round. Thank you.
All right, I've got another one here for you, John, I think. We'll start with you. When ordered to go during an evacuation, is there some standard way of marking our property, such as flagging or your address on the address post, that you have in fact left the area and don't need to be notified by responders?
That's a good question. Typically, how we deal with that when we're going through and doing an evacuation in an area where we have a fire advancing to threaten it is we will go and clear that area ourselves. And part of that is we trust but verify, right? Like we have a duty and a responsibility to ensure that that house is clear, and we're aware if somebody is still in that area or if somebody has migrated into that area as well. So that's something that we deal with often. We have a system in place to mark that we will communicate to our firefighters. Some of that changes depending on the scene that we're arriving at and how we're dealing with it. And sometimes we take it very, very seriously. So we always go in and clear an area, and once we have made sure that it is always completely clear and free of any residents or pets in that matter too, then we'll mark it and we'll communicate that up our chain to the leadership that's in charge of that geography on an incident. So we appreciate leaving the area if you're a resident, but we have to verify that.
Great. Any more questions from the audience? We're going back there. Just hold that mic, John.
We heard earlier about Basher Road and the challenges that they have for evacuation, and there's a lot of hillside residents that have that same issue. So I wanted to hear from that community, Basher Road, what you have done as a community to make sure that your neighborhood is safe and can evacuate safely.
Well, one of the first things we did was stole everything that Rabbit Creek had already put together. And that's the easiest way, is go get examples, and we have examples we can provide people. But we went down and we talked to our local captains at the Station 14, and we talked through what's a response look like and how do people get communications, and basically wrote that down as an evacuation plan. And that is what we will drill on the 31st of May down at Station 14. So very much working with that local captain and using existing information, the stuff that's available. That WUICAT website that was talked about, that's all about supporting community councils and their resilience committee. So first thing is the community council to appoint a resilience committee or ask somebody to lead that.
Okay, any others? Another one there?
Just a comment about Chugach Electric. They cleared the easement between my house and the neighbor's house last week, and those guys worked incredibly hard, and they did a fantastic job. Then they came through with this big, ugly mulcher, and it was wonderful. There is nothing there on that easement now, and it's a wonderful fire break. So thank you so much.
Great. You want to respond to that, or? Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, looks like we got another one over there.
This question's for JP. In LA, they ran out of water in the system. Now, John's been saying rig sprinklers. I live over by Baxter Bog, and if the fire's going through the bog and I rig sprinklers and stuff and leave, and the fire department shows up and starts taking water out of the hydrants, are my sprinklers still going to work?
Go. So Anchorage has one of the most complicated water systems in the world, which makes it very difficult to operate. However, that also means that it's very difficult for it to be broken. We have 55 hydraulic pressure zones all within the one connected water system, which is unique because we serve customers at 1,200 feet above sea level, and then less than 5 miles straight away, the Port of Anchorage at sea level. So, one thing that I can tell you is that in the 25 years that I have worked at the Municipality of Anchorage in the Water Department, the 12 years that I've been the superintendent, I have never, ever seen cooperation between government and public agencies of this magnitude. We did a drill last Thursday with 71 officials and public entity representatives, a coordinated one. And so I was shocked. I was impressed at how well that drill went from inception of fire all the way to complete suppression. To get to your question, if you have a sprinkler on your house and you start using it, and so does everybody in your neighborhood, is that going to pull away from what water supply efforts that my department can give wildfire and AFD directly? It's going to depend, but I can tell you that those fires like that we practiced last Thursday, if you're on the public water system and you're doing that the way that progressed in that time frame, which is based on a lot of models by a lot of really intelligent people who have dealt with fires for many decades, I would say that that would be not a bad idea, especially if you're not on the public water system, if you're on a well, right? If you're pulling in those direct areas like at BLM, those are supports that we can give the fire department and the residents on the hinterland, the edge of the city at the same time. Did I answer your question?
We've got a lot of water. It would take a lot to max the system out.
We're doing good.
We're doing good. Okay. We are running out of time. I just had one more question, and really maybe this is for Stephanie, but what is the wait time to get a home assessment? And I can relay that if you want. Or come on up.
So that is a great question, and we currently have somewhere around 80 to 85 assessment requests. I can tell you that when I first inherited the program, the FireWise program in 2022, we had more than 300 requests backlogged, and we were able to get through them in one season. So I can't give you an exact timeline, but we are madly working through those as quickly as we can. We know everybody wants to get work done. So the best thing I can do is recommend, if you haven't made your request, make that request today, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. Within the form, we now ask for your availability. If you made a request back maybe in January through I think about April, and you haven't informed us of your availability, send me an email at that wildfire@muni.org. That will speed the process up so I know who's available and when, and we can get somebody out to you.
I'll just dovetail onto that real quick. You don't have to wait for us. There is a ton of information online that provides all kinds of education on what you need to do. It's not super complex. You got a 30-foot zone, you got a 50-foot zone, and then you got to the edge of your property. You can research that and go to work. And a lot of our contractors that we utilize to execute wildland fire mitigation around the municipality, those are the same folks that come out and do the FireWise work if you contract that out. So you can leverage some of that, and you can start now and just work right within that 30-foot perimeter zone and start doing some good work that's going to be advantageous for us. And then as we have time to get through to your assessment, we can tell you the last couple of things that you need to execute.
Okay. All right, and I, as a testament, I took that self-assessment form off the internet last week and did a colleague's of mine house, and it was great. And I've been fighting fire a long time as well, and I thought it was very useful, and I was able to explain pretty intuitively what was on that form and how it applied to their property. So it's a great tool. It's a great place to start. Okay, we have time for just one more question. Yep, go ahead. Yeah. Jared, you have? Let Aviva go first.
I think you're referring to me with the National Weather Service as one of them. We work really hard to work with all of our partner agencies. Everybody that's represented here have been agencies that we've worked with in preparation for big wildland fires. Also part of the program with the National Weather Service is that we have about 100 incident meteorologists. We are trained, we receive red cards, we deploy to wildland fires. I have yet to work with this guy to my left, but I have worked with this guy to my right. I'm one of them. And our mission is the protection of life and property. I think that resonates with everyone, that resonates with the agencies, that we are herewith. So know that the Weather Service stands alongside your first responders.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so Jared Hammett with the BLM, and so for the BLM, we have 720 acres at Campbell Tract, and that's really the bulk of the BLM administered lands in the Anchorage area. And so the last 2 years, we had a contract to address some of the beetle-killed trees. So we had a local contractor come, and we treated 100 feet on each side of all trails, roads, and facilities within Camel Tract. And we had, 244 acres treated. And then we had all that material decked at 2 locations. Then we opened that up to free use firewood to the public. There may be some folks here tonight that got some of that free firewood. We gave away about 350 cords, and it was over 2 weekends. It was very well received, and so we treated the second phase of that. So we've got about another 50 cords, not as much as the first year, but we're going to be offering that up towards the end of the summer. We also have, we purchased a skid steer loader, and we're getting some attachments for that, a masticator head to do some of the work that you admired, to create some fuel breaks along the roads that we have within Campbell Tract. We have the BLM Road and the Campbell Creek Science Center Road, so we'll be treating on both sides of those. We have also a already treated fuel break that's getting a little dated now. It's going on about 15 years, so we're looking at retreating that over the next couple of years, and within the next year, actually. And then we still, as someone asked about funding, we have about 2 more years on the bipartisan infrastructure law funds. So we do have the funds to accomplish a lot of the projects that I just mentioned. After that, things are unknown, and so we'll do the best we can moving forward. So any questions related to that?
Great. Oh, we got one more?
Thank you.
My name's Taylor Keegan. I was on the panel this evening, but they didn't save me a chair. So here I am. I'm the superintendent of Parks, and I also just want to add, since 2020, Parks has spent about $5 million between ARPA funds and CARES Act funds on removing beetle kill. So we've been doing a lot of work in our parks. Also, to answer an earlier question, you do not own the tree on your neighbor's property, but you are able to limb the tree that encroaches on your property, as long as you do not harm the health of that tree. A lot of our trees overhang on private property, and that's the direction that we give constituents.
Great.
You better save me a chair next time.
Okay. Okay, well, we are at 9 o'clock, so I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for all your great questions. And we'll conclude there, and I think a few of the panel members will be around if you have further questions or want to talk more. So thank you very much.
Taylor? Taylor? Taylor?
Doug? It's good to see you. Coaching hockey lately?
Yeah.